right, everybody, welcome back to another great episode of our Range Marketing Fireside Chats. I've got CEOs on the line. It's what we do here at Range Marketing. We want to make sure we're giving you the best information possible. And of course, our normal and our regular CEO of Range Marketing here, Spencer Rubeck, joining us from a beautiful remote location that is not Buffalo, New York. So welcome, Spencer.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Nate.
And I'm really excited to introduce the Range Marketing people that kind of watch our podcast regularly, that are consuming our content. We're really excited to have the CEO of Jane Technologies, Socrates Rosenfeld, join us here on the Fireside Chat. Like, this is a really big moment for, I think, Range Marketing, for the people that consume, the people that are our customers. This is kind of our cutting of the tape, so to speak, of what I believe to be one of the best partnership opportunities that exist currently in the cannabis space. So I'm really excited to introduce Socrates. Socrates, thank you so much, first and foremost, for making time to hang out with us and talk a little technology and cannabis with us today. We're really excited to first and foremost, kind of stand side by side with such a great company, one that really champions the industry and is out there for one thing and one thing only, which is the same thing that we share, which is really helping the consumer, helping these cannabis retail dispensary owners across the country. As we know, more and more markets are opening every month, and I think this is one of the most exciting things I've been a part of with this company, and we've had a lot of great things kind of happen over the last couple of months. This one for me is really the best part of it. So without further ado, Socrates, it really is a pleasure to have you. Thanks for joining us, man.
Oh man, thanks for such a thoughtful and warm introduction, Nate. It's wonderful to join you and Spencer on this show, man. Really excited for the potential of this partnership and coming together. It's great.
Yeah, and we're gonna really dive into the nitty gritty, but I wanted to take a moment or two to kind of get the listeners and people watching along an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, know your background, and obviously I think your journey from helicopter pilot to technology CEO is fascinating, and we'd love to kind of hear your a little bit about your story.
Awesome, man. Well, I will try to be relatively brief. My path to the industry is unique. I grew up really kind of a product of the DARE program. If you guys ever remember that.
Yeah.
I think in 5th grade, Officer Gary came to the classroom and he scared the crap out of me about cannabis and other drugs. And from that point on, I was like, I'm not touching it. I'm not dealing with it. And I believed all the.
So you're saying it worked? It worked.
Yeah.
The DARE program worked.
Yeah, I guess it worked for the people who implemented the DARE program. Not necessarily work in terms of getting the truth.
Right.
Right.
And it took me about 30 years to find my way back to the truth. I went to West Point for college. As you described, I was in the Army. I flew Apache helicopters in a former life, I say. And I got out and I was back in my hometown, just outside of Boston. Like most military veterans, had no really idea what to do next. So I was applying to school because that was really an option for me, fortunately. And at the same time, though, I had really some issues relaxing. I couldn't relax. I felt like everything was the most intense thing I've ever done in my life, and it was, a coffee chat over a job interview, or, just taking the GMAT, the standardized test. It was as though I was facing life and death decisions, and in retrospect, made a lot of sense, right? Like, I was trained to make life and death decisions for a dozen early years of my life, and I no longer had the ability to turn that switch off. And so I tried everything, didn't work. Tried meditation, I tried yoga. I just couldn't turn the corner. And so I tried cannabis for the first time. I was 29 years old, and it really changed my life, man. It really allowed me to find that restful state, that balanced state, allowed me to regain my presence again. And from there, I was a believer. I had experienced the truth, and I wanted to go and pursue that truth and provide access to this plant for those who needed it most. So graduated from business school, shifted out to Silicon Valley, was a consultant there, still had the dream of kind of getting involved in the industry. The year was 2014, 2015 at the time. And I remember, studying as the consultant, studying all these e-commerce companies. We call them aggregators. So these big marketplaces like Amazon and Airbnb and 1-800-Flowers and Grubhub. And I thought to myself, man, there are some wonderful things about a marketplace, right? For a consumer, you can have purchasing power, you can read reviews, you can see who's got deals on a certain product you love. You get recommendations based on what you're putting on your cart. And I thought, man, that is awesome. I get this for my food, I get this for my flights, places to stay, I get this for pretty much everything else in my life, except here we are in cannabis, and it's this product that's kept in the dark with no information. It's really hard to access through digital means to find out what's at the store without having to go to the store. And so we decided to go in and solve that problem. And I was so blessed to have a founding team that much smarter and courageous than I am. And they rallied around the idea, and we built Jane Technologies. And what we now provide for close to 1,800 dispensaries now across the country is what we call fully automated e-commerce. If small businesses in Buffalo, right? Not necessarily cannabis dispensaries, but flower shops, pet stores, toy stores, hardware stores that are dying, unfortunately, because they can't keep pace with the digital acceleration that's going on, particularly with COVID. And now we've invented a technology that these small businesses can just plug in and use, and they don't have to worry about building software or anything like that. And it's just a wonderful thing. And now for the millions and millions of consumers on our platform, they can access this plan just like they access a burrito on DoorDash. And it's been a lot of fun. So that's
Socrates,
the industry.
That's a great point too. That piece was missing in the industry, and range has been in the industry for 5 years. Really, when it started to blow up, we're obviously highly niche and narrow in search engine optimization. We drive leads. That's what we do.
Right.
Been doing that for a long time. That's what we're great at doing. And one element of that is, to your point, the e-commerce element, right? We didn't develop all of our technology and our focus on SKU system, inventory management, what's converting. That's really kind of outside of our wheelhouse. So, as we developed our growth in the cannabis industry, it was very natural to find companies that already had that in place. And when we did that, that was just a perfect match. We found iHeartJane. It was a perfect match for us because we're still able to drive leads, still able to do SEO, and also have that other element of conversion data, right? Which is data drives everything. Data drives business decisions, right? That's an overall thing. So having that type of data, that type of conversion information, it really makes it a whole scope of our capabilities. So that was a great point. That was a piece of the industry that's been missing for a while. And as it's developed, it's just like, Jane Technologies crushed it. You guys did a great job with your product.
Yeah, I think too, on top of that, to build off that, Spencer, it was one of those things where it felt like we realized that there was this need in the industry. And every time we try to seek the solution to that need, it felt like the same handful of companies were the ones that were there to offer the service. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Socrates, with your experience, and I know that, when customers have approached us in the past and asked us for to create this really custom e-commerce experience and marketplace on their website. And, for us, we looked at that situation as, well, we'd love to do that. We'd love to take the undertaking, but we don't know where to start. There is so many regulations in this industry, particularly on the digital side. And for me, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, why there are so few, and what you guys are doing that allows you to separate yourself from because here's the thing, unlike the retail cannabis space where you could walk outside your cannabis dispensary's door and see 3 local competitors within a quarter mile of your store, that does not exist in the e-commerce cannabis world. There are very few options for cannabis dispensary owners. And I'm wondering why you think that is, but maybe more importantly, why it is you felt like it was something you had to go after, that you needed to create this solution because it's simply the solutions in place weren't doing enough for dispensary owners to truly find the growth potential in their businesses.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, man. We could have come into this industry, copied another e-commerce provider from another industry, and just stuck it into the cannabis industry, right?
Yep.
We could have looked at Yelp, for instance, and we could have said, okay, let's create a listing service. let's charge the small businesses to move up in priority on the listing. And other than that, though, we're not really going to provide that much value. That was an option. Or we could copy what's going on in the restaurant industry. Again, we can scrape a menu and just put that menu up, even though it's stale. It's okay. We can get away with it. And that's really what was going on prior to Jane. You know, the restaurant industry is an interesting one. That you know, the Buffalo Wing restaurant, and I'm sorry I'm being so cliched, in Buffalo, right? I'm sure there are some awesome wing places there. And in the summer, I'll come visit you guys.
Plenty, plenty.
Those menu items never change at that restaurant, right? They're going to sell spicy wings, sweet wings, barbecue, etc. All Grubhub or DoorDash or Uber Eats needs to do is a one-time scrape integration. They can have that information there stale. What we saw as a nuance of this industry, though, was that this is actually a retail item. And this retail item, not only can this one item be sold at multiple stores, right? The one chicken wing in Buffalo's,
that's being sold there.
Sauce, right? That's it. But now you have a SKU that can permeate across an entire state market now nationally. Let's not treat this like the restaurant industry. Let's actually treat this like retail. And so what we needed to do is, and not only just treat it like retail, treat it like high volume, sophisticated, complicated retail. The average dispensary in the country carries 500 SKUs on their store shelf. 50% of those SKUs change over week in and week out. So products are moving left and right. They're flying off the store shelf. They're misspelled, they're abbreviated. That is why, Nate, you haven't seen a lot of companies move into this space, because it's not easy. You can't just scrape a menu and put it up there. You actually have, we inject machine learning now that's been running now for about 4 years that can cleanse the information in real time. And so actually what we saw, it's a great question, man. We didn't just see the opportunity to come into the cannabis industry and copy what was going on in other industries and put it in here. We saw this opportunity to actually build something bespoke, specific for this industry. And man, I don't know if you have any friends that own restaurants. Like, I'll be damned if the cannabis industry looks like the restaurant industry in 10 years. Because restaurants are being exploited by aggregators like DoorDash. They're taking 20-30% margin out of a very low margin business. They're not providing information. They're not enabling
support.
Exactly. And so we said, man, let's go and do this. Let's go and solve this problem specific for the cannabis industry. But in doing so, let's prove to the world that we can create a new model where we don't have to kill the small business in order for the tech company to win.
Sure.
Amazon is a great example of that.
Absolutely. DoorDash
is an example of that. Yelp is an example of that, where in order for the tech company to win, someone has to lose.
Yeah.
And we think if we can do it in an elegant way, we can create a model where everybody can win. We can provide really sophisticated technology for the people who need it most, which are these retailers. But at the same time, Jane can continue to grow value and make money without ever having to kill that small business or have a hand in that cash register. So that's really our mission, and so far we're proving that out.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that point too, and I think it perfectly guides us into where I wanted to go with this podcast, which is, what is the actual, when we're talking about anything in business, there has to be an attached value to that discussion. Otherwise, a business owner is going to move on and they'll find someone who's going to give them something of value. And value is really in the eyes of the beholder, and it's really how you sell that value. And I think for us, one of the things that really I think spoke to us, and I'm going to pass this to Spencer to kind of give us the why of this, but you mentioned the win-win of this, and very rarely now, because of how many options exist, do you truly find win-wins. And to multiply that, very rarely do you find win-win-wins. And what I mean by that is a win for Range Marketing, a win for Jane Technologies, and a win for the customer. That is even more rare. And I think one of the reasons why when we saw you guys and we saw what you were doing and we met your team, we kept thinking, at least I kept thinking to myself, like, we're creating 3 wins here. We are helping Jane is helping us. And because we're helping each other, the one person that's benefiting more than anything is the client. And that is such a unique thing, not to cannabis, but to business in general. And I'm glad you brought restaurants into that, because we're talking about, listen, cannabis, for everything beautiful that it is and the budding industry that it is, margins exist everywhere. And for the business owner nowadays to get themselves into position to transition from small business to medium-sized business has never been harder. And especially in this industry where you are being roadblocked by municipals, by local governments, by your neighbors down the street who don't want cannabis anywhere near their business, by Google, who will do everything in their power to make sure that you can't pay them to their pocket to just produce advertisements for your business. It truly becomes a survival of the fittest. And when you can work with a company or a set of companies or a group of partners that take that mindset, that take that bare bones survival mindset out and really go more to a flourishing mindset to, we are here to build a business that isn't just a fly-by-night business, but a business that's sustainably built, that is built not overnight, but incrementally over time. That's our model to help businesses. It's your model to help businesses. And together, I think that's the question I have to ask Spencer is, why Jane? And what gave you, I mean, I know part of why Jane is because I sold them for 3.5 months to the management team every damn meeting. I said, Jane, guys, it's got to be Jane. And of course, I'll take a little credit for that. But I do think part of that is, as a business owner, Spencer, I won't dance around this because I know Socrates has the same thing, is we all want to help everybody, but at a certain extent, it's how much can another person help you, in which case, how can that person help you help our customers? And that's really where I think management and ownership really started to see that intrinsic value, the value of they're helping us help our customers. And I think that's probably a big part of the why.
It is. It's the customers. When our customers are happy, and we're feeding them great content, they have a SKU system, everything's solved. Those issues are gone. A lot of times, and this happens all the time, Nate, you can attest to this, we're working with dispensaries who are driving a ton of leads, and they have menu integration problems. That's just outside of our wheelhouse, not something we do. It's easy for us to say, hey, we have this great partner, it's sophisticated technology, all of the highlights that you just mentioned are featured within that technology. Let's get you onboarded.
We can have you enrolled in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's where, for me, it was kind of just the looking glass, right? Where it's like it came down to the customer. The customers are asking for this. Jane Technologies provides the solution, the sophisticated solution, like you mentioned, Socrates, and that to me is just lights out, right? We got the lead generation done, but having the customers bring to us the need for something better is really what elicited Jane Technologies as the place to go for a partnership.
And it goes beyond just what the customer says, right? Because not only did we notice the need for it, because we were continually being asked to build out these really complex platforms. And it is, I find, and I know with both of your experience, it's very difficult to say no to a customer, but it's even more difficult to say no to a customer when you know you truly can't help them, because that's the hard thing to do in business. And I'll say this about Range Marketing is we've said no almost as many times as we've said yes. And I think that's what makes us unique, is we're not willing to work with a client that we don't know without a reasonable doubt that we can not only help, but sustainably help and help over years of a really good working relationship. And Socrates, I want to kind of kick this question to you in the inverse, is I know you guys have worked with other marketing companies, other digital companies, other web developers and SEO companies that you've used and sort of, past business along to. What about Range Marketing spoke to your team that made you say, this is something that we not only need to pursue, but we need to do this now?
I'm not going to talk about the technology. The fact that you guys are so strong on SEO and have that proprietary ability to really drive top of funnel for small, medium-sized businesses is, that's table stakes, right? Like, you guys have the technology. For us, when we truly enter into a partnership, what we're looking for are a few things. One of them being exactly like you guys had already touched upon, ultimately, what is this doing for the customer, right? Is this providing value for the customer? If the answer is no, all right, we move on. We don't even try to contort ourselves and try to figure out, some partnership that there's no value in. But after talking to Spencer and the broader team, the ability to drive top of funnel, convert, and then send that information back to the small business so they can go and really develop this flywheel. All right, that checked the box for us. And then I would say second to that, and equally as important, if not more important, is why range exists. Is range existing to grow range? Okay, that's a little bit superficial, and I would say a pretty shallow mission. What you guys are doing is you saw kind of similar to what the Jane team saw, and this is really an opportunity to shape an industry the right way, to create these win-win opportunities, to provide legitimacy and transparency to this industry, to empower small businesses to understand and step into the digital world. These were all the tenets that I saw within Range, and ultimately that's what gets us over the line in terms of committing to a partnership is, it's the why we exist. And I think we have alignment in our respective companies' missions, and that's ultimately to provide value for these clients and these customers and have the opportunity to shape an industry the right way. And, hopefully it resonates with you guys. Sounds like it did.
Absolutely. And it's fun too, because, I've been a business owner for a long time. I've tried many different things. This is the business where I can help businesses, where we actually grow these epicenters of dominance on the internet. They're not spending 10 grand a month on paid ads. Every time someone clicks on a paid ad, their costs go up. With us, it's a flat rate based on their needs. We decipher what they need and we kind of recommend that. You could always be more aggressive or less aggressive. But a lot of these companies want to open multiple locations. There's a way to do that. We've kind of configured that mothership style of a website where you have 7 locations in different towns and regions. We have epicenters of dominance in each store, right? So we're actually able to grow. We have clients who are like, I want to open a new dispensary here, new dispensary here. Okay, here's our game plan for that. That's how we're going to do it. And that to me is like the most fun, right, Nate? I would think you'd agree with that. That's the most fun part, is growing businesses and just giving back to our clients. It's huge.
But I also think the client looks to us that we're experts. And I think the most important part of being an expert is understanding your weaknesses. You can't simply have strengths. All of us on this podcast, all of us have weaknesses. And I think the one thing that makes, Range and Jane so unique is our understanding of what we don't do in the market and understanding our role. And I think part of the understanding that role is making sure that we're constantly educating our clients, because if a client doesn't know what our role is, or the role of several partners that they're working with, we're never going to be able to deliver the results in their mind, because they have a misrepresentation of what the value that is being brought. So education in this conversation, maybe goes above all of the good feelings and the good tidings we all feel about helping this industry and how we're helping this industry and why we're helping this industry. But the most important thing we can do to leave lasting impressions on this industry isn't just helping businesses grow and showing that we're helping them grow, but that we're educating them to make better decisions as business owners. And that may sound corny, but at the end of the day, there is nothing more valuable, in my opinion, than an educated customer. And I think for me, Spencer, we talk about the importance of filling the top of the funnel all the time. And I think for a little while as a company, even we didn't truly know that, we're not going to be the company that can help you convert. And we can't sell it that way because it's not fair to the customer and it's not right. We are not, our job, you're not paying Range Marketing to convert that traffic. And it's an understanding of what this system and how you can actually succeed is. You can't have a thorough conversion tool if that conversion tool isn't being fed underhand pitches. And I think for us, it's the understanding that our job is to feed Socrates and Jane. If Jane is the Barry Bonds of e-commerce, Barry Bonds got one hittable pitch a series, and my man decked it out of Macaulay Cove every single time. And I think for us, we know that Socrates and Jane, they just need opportunities to hit it out of the park. And that's really where we can say, we're your team. We're the people that can fill the top of the funnel, and we don't know anybody better at converting than Jane.
Yeah, and I think that's just proof point in our mutual clients and their websites, and watch how it's actually. I was talking to an executive at an MSO, and he said something so, I think it was spot on, was in this new digital age, the digital shopping experience is now the brand, right? If I used to walk into Best Buy, that experience is Best Buy's brand. Home Depot, right? That is their brand. You go in there, you see all the wood, and you talk to the expert. That's part of their brand. Well, now when you can't walk into the store,
it's a great point.
How do you take that customer? Number one, how do you get that customer onto your site, which is range you guys are experts in? But now that we brought them into the site, how do, in the ecosystem of this retailer, how do we take them through a shopping experience that is beautiful and that is on brand? And I think together between Jane and Range, I wouldn't say we've nailed it, but we're getting pretty damn close.
I agree.
And I think this year will be wonderfully exciting in partnership with our retailers to go in and really create a digital brand through a online shopping experience, all the way from, finding that retailer all the way through to converting, to getting retargeted, et cetera. I think to do that right from a technical standpoint, cultural standpoint, there are a lot of variables in there, and I think we're getting that dialed in, and I'm really excited for the future clients of ours to experience this and their customers.
Yeah,
well, you're right too, because for me at least, if I'm going to a dispensary in California, I kind of have ones that I like to go to. I like the brand. That's what the brand experience was so good that I will literally. That's a returning customer at some point, right? So not only did we fill the top of the funnel, but we also created an environment whereas that wheel keeps going around, and a customer's like, "This is a great brand experience. I'm having a great experience with this dispensary. It's the ease of use, it's the ease of conversion, and the data is there for us to provide our clients." I think those three things are it's again, Nate, win-win-win, right?
Yeah, so, and although Range may not be responsible for converting, we do take pride in the fact that something that we put together could be the reason why a customer may or may not redo that experience or re-experience that. And I think for us, there is a level of pride that takes place in our development. And I want to stick with the funnel conversation, because I think it's really interesting to me in particular, because I'm dealing with these owners and these general managers and these bud tenders and these marketing managers almost every day. And one of the things, Spencer, that I know the conversation always gets kind of comes down to, this core talking point is, traffic, right? And this is something that, I'm sure every sales rep at Jane hears, and I know every sales rep at Range hears. It's traffic, rankings. These are all the things these people talk about. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Spencer, and try to get your insight on, is when you're talking about the top of the funnel and you're talking about the types of traffic that you want to fill that funnel with, and I think of it organic versus paid social and direct. What makes organic traffic, what makes, if you're a business owner and you have two funnels, one funnel is a majority of organic traffic and the other is a majority of the rest. If you're that business owner, which one do you feel the most confident that you're able to continue and grow and have sustainability moving forward? For me, it's organic, and maybe I'm biased, but I'd love to hear from the owner of a company like this, what makes that organic traffic, what having a majority of organic traffic at the top of that funnel could mean for you as a business owner.
Well, the answer to that question is really simple, Nate. It's a great question. When we see the data for paid social leads, referral leads from other, sources of information to a website, we can track all of that with pixels, right? When 98% of a dispensary's traffic is organic, the answer is right there. And that's very common. 93 to 98% of the dispensary's traffic is organic. And again, this is something that we've done for 7 years. We've developed this process. We're very narrow in what we do. And the game is always changing. It's an always changing game. The rules change weekly, and so does our play, right? The way that we handle SEO. But the data alone, and that's what I mentioned earlier in this podcast, is that data alone drives decisions for business owners, I believe. At least for me, Socrates, you may feel the same way. When you look at the data, there's really no questions to be asked. The organic traffic is just through the roof, and everyone knows that Google's where you go. You're not going to necessarily go to Yelp to find a dispensary, not ever, anytime soon at least. you're going to go to Google. You're going to find the nearest location that has the best value that fits your critique style. And here's one thing that's really important too, for people to understand, is that not all Google search results are the same. Everyone on this podcast has different search results. Google is adhering to your personality. When you're searching, they're collecting data and adhering to your personality. So what we're trying to do is create an environment whereas Google understands what your business does, where you do it, and how you do it. When we train Google, it's a massive library on those three elements. We create that organic environment that it's a flat rate. You're not paying per click, and the ROI goes higher, the margin's higher. And again, 98% of your traffic's coming from organics. It's a simple answer. But it's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think this kind of leads me into our final talking point, which is what's next? We've spent, and this is one thing I'm proud of is, and I know Socrates, you probably feel the same way, is I think the best partnerships are the ones that are thoroughly thought out, that there's a recipe before you turn the oven on. And I think for us, that recipe has been the last several months of working together, feeling out each other's processes. And now we're at the point, Socrates, where we've entered the product development phase to try to be the pair of companies that can offer turnkey solutions to these new markets. I know this, and the cannabis industry suggests this, that it costs almost $1 million for a new regulated dispensary to open. Let me tell you, not every dispensary owner has $1 million laying around, and that goes beyond what the other things after you open your door. So this is not necessarily the easiest or cheapest industry or business right now to enter into. So knowing that, together we create a product that can become a turnkey solution that isn't going to break the bank for these clients. Like, in your opinion, the next phase of this, what does this look like together? But maybe more importantly, what does this look like for Arizona? What does this look like for the state of Florida, who is seeing unbelievable booms in medical cannabis use? And that, in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before states like Florida and some of these other states with booming medical results that we've seen early on. Maryland's another one. These states are seeing unbelievable revenue movement from the medical game, which, in my opinion, you'd have to be dumb not to see and look at. I mean, the state of California is making billions of dollars a year in revenue and taxation of this product at a recreational level. And I think for me, when you talk about what's next, it's got to be these new markets, Socrates. And for these markets, if you're a person today that's thinking about, how am I opening my business? When I open my business, how do we make this happen? I think we're creating that solution right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The two things that come to mind, and I'd love to hear, Spencer, what you're thinking, but simplicity and adaptability, right? So, and this is where we're going together, I think. Number one, simplicity. Not only is it really expensive to open up a new dispensary, there's a lot of stuff going on. There is licensing, hiring, scheduling, what products to inventory, merchandise,
HR, you name it, normal business flows. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And particularly in retail, it is hard. It's a challenging environment. Now, on top of that, you're now burdening retailers with having to become digital strategists. Right. So I think together, the first thing is simplicity. Hey, let us give you this website, SEO, conversion engine, data, advertising, etc., all packaged up, turnkey, like you said, Nate. Away you go. Okay, that's one less thing I got to solve for as a retailer. The second thing, and equally as exciting for us, is we want to build flexibility. Going back to the earlier point about your digital experience is now your brand, right? We've architected and built our menus in a way to optimize for conversion. Every little thing, every button, every feature, every color, etc., ultimately does this drive conversion in an elegant way? But there are retailers who want their own experience. They want to create and provide a page here to do this and a page over there to do that. This concept of headless e-commerce is something that I think will continue to permeate not only just in cannabis but across all of retail. So that's where we're going, and I think in partnership with Range, can we bring simplicity to this game? Absolutely. And in doing so, can we also bring adaptability and optionality on behalf of these retailers so they can really build their own digital brand? That's something that we're really excited to bring to market here this year.
Yeah, Socrates, absolutely. I agree with all that. And, I was a retail store owner. I owned an e-cigarette store. And I know the pains of starting from the last thing I thought about, truthfully, was my website. Very last thing. I was worried about the signage. I was worried about the inventory management. I was worried about the personnel, the staffing, Nate, to your point. And when it came to the website, it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? Who's going to help me? How do I get the inventory SKU management, right? So all that was like a very dark, unanswered question when I experienced opening a retail store, not in the cannabis industry, but just overall. So to your point, this is really an out-of-the-box solution to get people started and also allows them to expand their brandability. If you want a highly branded website, we can do that too, right? We can take it, we can grow it. This is malleable. This is a very malleable thing that we're working on. So I think that you hit the nail on the head there, Socrates. That's exactly the two things that ECUs and alignment, it's perfect for new customers and new markets. Absolutely.
Yeah, last thing to kind of wrap this up. This conversation has been fascinating for a lot of reasons. The peek behind the door of, I think, two technology companies who, listen, at the end of the day, I think the great thing that we all do is talk about this in a layman's term, in simplistic terms. We could get on this podcast, we could talk about the high end, the back end of this technology and confuse the hell out of people. But I think the one great thing about what we're doing together is this isn't something that we started talking about last week. We have spent the necessary time, and this goes beyond just our relationship. This is exactly how we approach the cannabis industry in its entirety. Is when we started working with Barbary Coast, the first thing Range Marketing did wasn't to go out and try to onboard as many dispensaries as humanly possible the day after, onboarding Barbary Coast. No, it was using Barbary Coast as a platform to find out whether or not what we did would actually make an impact on this industry. And when we realized that the impact was not only there, but it was so great, that it was one of the only avenues for growth for companies, well, then that's really where we said, we've got something here. Let's apply this to this industry, not because this is a huge, revenue generating, opportunity, but the fact of the matter is no one's doing this at a high enough level right now. And I think that's the one thing I think for us is this is not a slapdash partnership. This is not something that we were like, we like the CEOs like each other and, they enjoy Aruba and or whatever. This isn't a friendly relationship. This is a relationship that is moving the industry forward. And that's the one thing I kind of wanted to just hammer home as we sort of end this fantastic conversation. And I wanted to pass it to Socrates just for any of your final thoughts and maybe sort of what you're excited for the future.
Yeah, man. I mean, you said it so well. We're entrepreneurs, right? For me and my team, we are on a mission. This is why we started Jane, not for anything other than we saw an opportunity to provide and really shape an industry centered around a product that helps people. And as an entrepreneur, in my opinion, the ones that we read about are always the ones that ask, why not? Right?
Very true.
Why couldn't we have a market where the smallest businesses here have access to the same powerful technology as the biggest ones? Why couldn't we have a market where all the operators own their own data and then can action against really actionable information? Why can't we have a market that doesn't gouge the supply side of the small businesses and exploit them either by charging crazy listing fees or taking a percent take out of a transaction? These are the things that we're excited about at Jane, and it resonates over, across the fence at Range. And I think together, man, what excites me the most is this opportunity to really ask the question, why not? We're not anchored on what happened before. This is a fresh industry. Let's go and build this the right way. And as entrepreneurs, man, that's the most exciting. And we're on that mission. It sounds like Range is too, man. It's
you hit the nail on the head there, Socrates. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the one thing that is a great note to leave on is better together. right? If range,
I like that.
I think this year for 2021, I mean, what a year 2020 was. I don't have to tell anybody that. I know everyone in their own way experienced their own struggles over the course of 2020. And for our business to have, exceeded expectations in such a difficult year is a testament not to just this team here, but it's a testament to the customers, to our clientele, because there was a need that we clearly were able to fulfill. But I think the better together thought process is, if range marketing, we looked at 2021 as how can we be better next year? I think we found our way to be better, and it's with Jane. And so I think for me, I'm really excited for 2021 because I believe we are better today than we were yesterday. And if for nothing else, if you're a business owner and you're watching this podcast, I think that you're listening to three people who genuinely care about this industry. And I'm going to tell you what, I've been around a lot of CEOs. I'm not a CEO myself, but I've been around a lot of CEOs that are figureheads. The two guys I have on this podcast right here are the furthest thing from it. They're hands-on. They're part of sales meetings. They're part of sales calls. That to me says something about a company, is how hands-on, how much level of care does that CEO have? Because that level of care, like anything else in life and in business, it trickles down to the people underneath. And I think you guys are working examples of what entrepreneurial success should look like, and what having two companies that care more about people than profits. And you're both living examples of that. So I appreciate both of you for taking the time. Socrates, seriously, I can't thank you enough for spending 45 minutes getting to learn a little bit about your thought process, getting to learn a little bit about what drives you and what drives the company. I'm so damn excited for what this year has in store for Range and for Jane together, but what the industry has in store with our partnership moving forward. I'm really, really excited, and I cannot thank you enough. I know how valuable your time is. I really can't thank you enough for stopping by and sharing some of the insight that I'm sure hundreds of business owners would love to, forget as much as you know.
Of course, brother. Really appreciate the partnership and for having me on this wonderful show. I'm really excited for 2021. Let's see what it brings us.
Thank you, Socrates. Thank you, Nate.
My pleasure. So another episode of Range Marketing Fireside Chats is the best one yet. So make sure you follow us on all of our social medias and check us out at rangemarketing.com.